Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our final review of Where Only Gods May Tread by Ingested. So we've listened to this album non-stop for an entire week. Vile, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so my thoughts as of right now, after listening for an entire week, are that I actually like this album quite a lot. And there's nothing really bad about it, but my take really is that there's not a lot special about it. So I listened to it a lot, and it was kind of just playing on loop every day, playing it. And there wasn't many times where things kind of jumped out at me and I went, wow, that's a really cool part, that's a really cool part. The main thing that kept screaming out at me is something we talked about in the first impressions and something we talked about when we reacted to Impending Dominance, and that's that headbanging riff part, whatever you call it, I don't know. It's the highlight of the album for me. It's so heavy and so just brutal that like, it's what I want in metal. It makes me feel how I want to feel when I listen to metal. It's just so brutal, and I just love that section. The whole song's great, but that one section is the highlight of the album for me. And it's an example of like a creative, just there's some creativity in there that I like. Like, it's not just the heavy riffing and just the pacing and stuff like that, but they have a couple little rests that they do, and every time there's like two parts where they do a rest, and after each part the double bass changes. You know, it starts off with like a regular kick beat, then it switches to double bass, then it switches to double bass. It's just an amazing section, and I just can't get over how good it is. And it's simplistic, there's nothing too technical about it, but it's my favorite part on the whole album, and it's the only part really though that really screamed out at me. As for individual songs, I will say there was one song that did start to kind of climb the little hill and become my favorite song of the week, and that was Black Pill. That's the one that features Matt Honeycutt from Kubla-Khan TX, which is a band that, again, I didn't know who that band was, and I probably should have checked them out, but didn't. But this song grew on me, and honestly, I still, like, I get the different vocal stylings, but it almost didn't matter to me. It wasn't prominent enough to really make an impact for me. But then again, maybe it did. Maybe that's why that song grew on me. I really don't know. But there's something about that song, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It shines above the rest. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's the rest of the songs are good, but they're just there. And I'm really having trouble thinking of things to say and comment on it, and I've been struggling all week to find things to say because they're just all good songs, but there's like, I don't know.
Well, after listening for a week, I thought this was a pretty great album, honestly. And I was gonna actually ask you about Black Pill, because I remember last week we both were kind of on it. Yeah. And I'll say that it's grown on me as well. And I think part of why we weren't as fond of it last week is because it came after Another Breath, which is such a big experience on its own.
Yeah.
So it's like, after you have that, what's afterward, you know, it's gotta be the best shit ever or else it's not gonna feel the same. But after listening to it for a week, probably even, you know, in situations where Another Breath was not before it, it's grown. And I think a part of that is the pacing of the song. It's a bit slower paced. You don't see that as much on this album, but it's kind of mixed around. I feel like Black Pill is one of the standout tracks in terms of changing the pace. But I also think The Burden of Our Failures is another song that does that, and that has one of my favorite parts on the album, which, you know, I didn't really feel the same way when we first listened to it. It was over the week, you know, the big breakdown where he says, "My words unheard." That just is so awesome. Every time I heard it, I'm like, yeah, that's sick, I love that.
Yeah.
And you know, with other songs I already enjoyed, like Impending Dominance, Dead Seraphic Forms, I would listen to those songs and remember, oh yeah, this has the thing that I really love from it, this is sick. The only song I can really say that I don't really, actually maybe two songs that I don't really like kind of have much in my head from are No Half Measures and Forsaken and Desolation, only because there wasn't much from those songs that really stood out to me and kind of made me kind of make them as recognizable. Every other song to me has something about them that I can pick out and say, yeah, this song's really cool because it has that in it, right?
For Forsaken and Desolation, there is one thing in that song that I do kind of recognize and go, oh, that part again. But it's not necessarily a good thing because it's a part that sounds very similar to the awesome part in Impending Dominance that I like, except it doesn't transition into this like really slamming hard, you know, breakdown kind of thing. But they have, for some reason, there's like a very similar build up or very similar rhythmic groove going on, and then it just doesn't transition to the fucking headbanging part. So maybe not the greatest thing, but I don't know. It's something every time it came on, I was like, oh yeah. Oh wait, this is not the right song. I got tricked a few times.
You know, another thing I really like about this album is how, for its genre, it's kind of unique. You kind of find a lot of brutal death metal kind of doing the same thing over and over.
Right.
Yet I feel like this album kind of shines above the rest because it does something different. It's not crazy 64th notes on the kick for 3 minutes, you know. Yeah. It's not, you know, the same breakdown over and over. They actually play around with different creative concepts, and that's why I feel like this kind of makes it more of a standout album among other brutal death metal bands.
Yeah, that's true, but honestly where I thought you were going to go with that is the atmosphere.
Well, that's another big part of it too.
This album, I wouldn't say it's very atmospheric or anything like that,
It
but
paints a picture, though.
in comparison to other brutal death metal bands or albums, I feel like this is a step above in that respect. With songs like Another Breath or Leap of the Faithless, you have a lot of ambience that fills the sound and just adds depth to the music. I think that's a really good thing. It's really creative that they do stuff like that, and I think, yeah, that stuff like that and what you just said sets them apart from other bands similarly in the genre.
Exactly. Anyway, with that being said, I guess we might as well jump towards a rating. Vial, what do you rate this album?
Well, it does have high points, like I just mentioned. The atmosphere is a good thing. It does have a couple parts that make me go, wow, this is amazing. But overall, I felt this album to be somewhat kind of, I guess, average. I hate using that word because it is good. It's solid. I didn't mind listening to it all week. I didn't get bored of it at all. So I'm gonna give it a decent score. I'm trying to remember back. I think, what did I give Benighted's album? I think I gave it like a 6 or a 6.5. I tried to. Yeah, I think I gave it a 6 or a 6.5. And I do think this was better than that. So I'm going to give it a slightly better score. I'm going to give this a 7.
An interesting reference point. Like, he chose Benighted to kind of compare this to.
Well, I found that as far as like genres go and what's more recent in my head, they were very comparable, right?
Perhaps,
They're both kind of brutal death metal. Like, Benighted is a little bit more blackened. This is a little bit more slam, even though we saw an interview and these guys said they don't like being called slam. I don't care. There's slam elements in here whether you like it or not. So they're different, but they share definitely share a genre, right? So I just try to go back in my head, like, I needed a point of reference. This is my first Ingested album that I've listened to, right? So I couldn't compare to old Ingested. So I felt like that was a fair way to do a score. That's how I did it. So yeah, 7.
All right, fair enough. Honestly, the more I thought about it closer to today, this album kind of got harder and harder for me to consider a rating. Because, you know, for a good chunk of this week, I'm like, this is a toe tag album. This is phenomenal. This is insane. But then the more I listened to it, the more it kind of, I don't want to say faded on me, but like, you know, closer to like yesterday and today, it didn't have the same amazing spark to me as it did. Yet there are so many awesome songs and awesome moments. So I feel like it's a 7.5 for me. Because it just feels like it's on the doorstep, you know?
It's close.
It's like just so, it's a great album regardless. Like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't get a toe tag. It's still a sick album that you guys should check out.
Yeah, I wish it just had a couple more like special moments. That's all it would have taken for me. Like a cool guitar solo or I don't know, anything. Could have been anything, but somebody just to scream out at me and make me go, this has to go on my playlist. Because there wasn't much in the album that really made me feel that way.
Yeah, I thought this album was awesome, but like I said, it just lacks a little bit of the spark. Anyway, guys, a 7 from Violent, a 7.5 from myself. That's all we got for you today. Remember to comment in the comments below. Tell us what you thought of this album after a week after its release. And remember to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel, and come back every single day on our channel to vote on the best metal band in the world tournament. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And we'll see you guys later.